Hey, welcome back to another episode of the She's Making an Impact podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Ngom. Today, we're talking about one of my favorite things, which is just systems and scaling and automation and how to create excellent offers that are really going to support you in your business so you can stop trading time for money. And I brought in an expert, Christine Gallagher. She's a speaker, trainer, bestselling author, and award-winning business coach. And she is known by the Huffington Post to be one of the 16 brilliant business minds on Twitter. And she's done a lot of stuff. And I'm really, really excited to bring this episode to you. So let's dive in. Hey, Christine, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so happy you're here. So let's start off. Just tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, so I help service-based female entrepreneurs, people who are like wellness professionals, coaches, consultants, healers, experts. I help them really take their business to the next level as far as scaling goes, because they want to move out of dollars for hours. They want more leverage. They don't want to be stuck like having their income capped. So I work with them to show them how to create leveraged offers so that they can have more free time to do what they love and still serve clients.
I love it. Very cool. So what does a leveraged offer look like?
Yeah, so a leveraged offer would be getting them out of this idea of dollars for hours. And when you come up as a service provider, you're very much focused on, I got to get my clients results, but it's very limited. And so we show them how to create offers that are leveraged, which could be group offers, but they could also be one-on-one because you can do high level one-on-one, which still leverages you. You can just kind of have a smaller amount of one-on-one clients. But we show them how to create offers so that they're easy for their clients to say yes to, and that the clients look at the offer and they say, oh, here's my credit card, I want to work with you, because we look at how to take their genius work and create a program around it so that they get their clients great results. And it can still be high touch and get their clients really in-depth results and still leverage you and get you out of that dollars per hours trap, as I call it.
Yeah. So where's the first place you start if you're trading time for money right now?
Yeah, so I would say that the biggest thing to look at is what is your sort of body of knowledge or your genius work. Everybody I work with, they have been in business for a while, they're experienced, they're not newbies, but they may have never packaged their knowledge like into a process or a system. And so what I usually do is I start them out looking at what is that sort of body of work or that arc of transformation, as one of my mentors calls it. And what is like one thing you can pull out of all the things you do for your clients? And what is one thing you can pull out that will help them get a quick win where they'll be like, oh, I did it. But at the same time, it also shows them that there's more to do. So, for example, with that one thing we pull out, we'll often create what's called like a front end offer or a flagship offer that you become known for. And it's like a 4 to 6 week program. It gets them a quick result, but it also shows them there's more to do, which then allows them to roll into like an ongoing program, which is usually, higher priced, longer term, and more of a deep dive into your body of work. So we work on the messaging around that and how to make the enrollment really easy so that you don't necessarily have to be tied to, I got to do a launch, I got to do a launch, I got to bring money in the door, so I got to do a launch. It's more about how do we have the messaging move people closer to saying yes all the time so that you're not reliant on just having that launch energy to get money in the door, because that's exhausting.
Yes, it is. Okay, so we have a 4 to 6 week program that's lower ticket. What price point would that be at?
I wouldn't say it's lower ticket. It's more like between 2 and 7K,
Okay.
depending. So, in the internet marketing world, low ticket, a lot of times people think it's under 2K. But the cool
Yeah.
thing about the way we do it is that it's, between 2 and 7K, but we do it in a way where you don't necessarily have to get on the phone to enroll people into that program, which is nice.
Okay. How are you doing that if it's
I
like
know.
7K? Yeah, I'm curious.
Like, how does that happen? So there's many things that go into it, but sort of in a nutshell, it's the offer itself, how it's positioned, and your messaging and your calls to action that you can be doing throughout the entire year, not just like, oh my gosh, it's launch, I gotta like put out a bunch of stuff or get on the phone a bunch of times. Your content, your messaging, your positioning is getting in the minds of your ideal clients all the time, so that when they see that perfect offer for them, the right offer for the right person at the right time, they don't need to get on the phone. They're already sold. They already know that they want to work with you. So it's kind of like we're like feeding, this idea of like, okay, and they're kind of like, they're kind of doing the dance, like, oh, she seems like somebody I might want to work with. And we're just making sure our messaging is right on point because we understand our ideal clients so much. So they don't necessarily need to have a long phone call to get enrolled, which is
Okay,
nice.
so they're basically super warm because you're creating content that you're putting out on a consistent basis before you even make that offer, correct?
Yes, and it's not just like any old content. For example, everybody puts out content. Everybody puts
Right.
out stuff on social media, but it's more about really putting a stake in the ground for who you want to serve. Because I'll give you a quick
Okay.
example. For me, I didn't always put a stake in the ground for who I wanted to serve. I thought I was being narrow and specific, but I wasn't really taking a stand for these are the types of service providers, who want a scalable leveraged offer and who want to get out of dollars for
Mhm.
hours. I wasn't totally being clear that that's who it was. But once I started just
Hmm.
speaking to that one person and then really listening to what they were saying, when they were replying to my
Mhm.
emails or, in past sales calls, I really kind of got into the psychology of what they wanted. And I put that into my messaging. And so that they were, looking at that and going, she knows exactly where I'm at, and this is the right offer.
Hmm.
For a lot of people, it won't be the right time for your offer, but the idea is all the time you're moving people closer to that yes. So when it is the right time, it's like, boom, let's do it. They don't need a lot of convincing, which is another
Got
way
it.
you get to leverage yourself because you don't have to sit on sales calls all day, which is quite nice.
That is quite nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the $2,000 to $7,000 offer. That's 4 to 6 weeks, and then how do you easily enroll them into that longer term program? And what's that price point? What does that look like?
Yeah, so the longer term program, the reason why it works so well is, again, if you take your entire body of work and you pull out that one thing that they can get a quick win around, then they can see, right? Because in the front end program, you're seeding that there's more to this, right? But they're
Mhm.
excited. They're not feeling like they didn't get something. They're like, I got this quick win. I see it's possible for me. Now, what else can I do? So in that front end offer, you're seeding this ongoing program. Now, that ongoing program could be 6 months, could be 9 months, could be 12 months. Typically, in my business, my ongoing program is 12 months. It's a mastermind, but it can look, different ways. The idea is that it's the rest of your transformative work that they get to do with you in that longer offer. And it's not only just a year; it's usually 2 to 3 years to
Hmm.
take them through that. As far as the price point, typically it's around 20K. It can be 15K depending on what you're including, but I also have clients who have 50K offers that are their ongoing offers. So it really just depends on kind of like, how big do you want to play? And what are the different results that you're going to be getting for your clients? So that ongoing offer becomes sort of an obvious next step for a certain percentage. And what we've seen is it's typically 30 to 50% of the people who go into your front door offer are going to move into the ongoing.
How do you make sure they know it's like the obvious next step for them?
Yeah, the big thing is that they see that they easily get that win. So, for example, in one of I have several front end offers, but in the one that I'm focusing on right now for my people is we create their leveraged offer. So they know that they want to get out of dollars for hours. They want to be, serving more clients at a higher level. And they see that they can come into the program and create this leveraged offer. But we don't go into like marketing A to Z around your leveraged offer because that is more than a 6 or 8 week program. But I give them enough to get the quick win of selling a couple of them. Maybe it's two, maybe it's eight, maybe it's 10. And then they see, oh my gosh, if I, have the structure around this, I could do this all year long. So
Hmm.
so for example, they'll sell this leveraged offer and then they'll realize with the right marketing system around it, they can do this and they can go into their ongoing offers. So we don't concentrate on the ongoing offers in the front end offer. So my mastermind is where we concentrate a lot on the ongoing offers. And so they see that as like the next possibility for them too.
Got it. Okay. Let's talk systems. What are some systems that you have in place to make all of this happen?
Yeah, so I'm like queen of templates and and swipe copy,
Yep.
and so my systems are actually pretty simple. I mean, the one thing that I always say is that you can have 40, 50 clients total in 1 year, and you can have $1 million business and you don't need a lot of structure to support that, meaning you don't need like a ton of team. A lot of times people are like, oh, if I have $1 million business, I need all this infrastructure and I need employees. In my case, I have a very, successful business with two main team members. One is a tech gal and one is an admin gal. And so you really can build that out. Now, as far as the systems around the processes that we teach in the front door and the ongoing, it's a system for messaging, right? So what does that messaging look like? How frequent are your messages going out? And it's also a system for like the offers and like launching them. So launching is very tiring. And this is something that I've been doing this for 12 years. I've launched a million things. It's exhausting. Even if you're like a savvy marketer, it's tiring. And so we teach them how to do sort of like a non-launch launch, which again is really around your messaging and having more calls to action, usually than you're probably used to putting out there. I'll give you an example. So coming up in the internet marketing world, it was always like, you send one email a week and it's your newsletter. And, you might have a little section in the newsletter and, where you make an offer or, you refer something. And it's like with all the noise that's out there now, there's a lot more people, there's a lot more competing messages. What you want to do is you want to put a call to action in like 90% of your messaging, right? So one of the systems that we teach our clients is how to make sure your messaging is getting out there with calls to action every single week. And again, you don't need a lot of team for that. You would have an admin person who you just make sure that you get the content to them in a timely manner, and then they post it, the way you want it to. Because sometimes we have to tweak our messaging from the ones that go out in email to the ones that go out in social media, just because they're different platforms. But yeah, systems around sort of the non-launch launch, systems around your messaging. And then also delivery is huge, which I think a lot of coaches don't talk about, is like, we talk about getting leads, we talk about nurturing and converting, but like delivering the actual program to your clients is what's going to help you scale more. Because if you've got your delivery locked down tight, people are going to want to continue, people are going to tell others, right? So we have some systems that we teach around delivery as well, so that we make sure that people are really, really happy with how you're running your programs, which is big.
Yeah, because if they're not happy in the first one, they're not going to join the mastermind one.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Can you talk more about the non-launch launch? Is that just like creating call to actions and emails, or is there more to it?
Yeah, I mean, it is big around the messaging and it's big around the offers. As far as what makes it a non-launch, it's really just this idea that when you are launching, you're putting a restriction kind of around when you can call money in. Like, it's like, oh, I'm going to have this 4-week launch and like, it's going to be concentrated and there's going to be a lot of effort. And then when it's over, does anyone buy? Well, usually not, right? So the idea is to make your messaging pull people in such a way that you're moving them closer to the yes all along. Because in a launch, let's say your launch is 2 weeks, that's a really compressed time period to move people closer to the yes, because you have to, tell them why you're different. You have to answer objections. You have to, like all the typical things that you also would do in a sales call. And that's a lot to do in a compressed time period. So when you're doing it all along, you're consistently having this like pipeline of people that is being filled, where you don't necessarily have to do it in this compressed time period, because like, I don't want restrictions around when I can call in money, So,
Right.
so that's kind of part of the unlaunch as well, is sort of that getting out of that mindset that it has to be in that compressed time.
Do you have any like level of scarcity or urgency to get people to take action then?
Yeah, definitely. For sure, there's some urgency pieces. Like I always tell my clients, if you want to put a deadline, but it doesn't have to be, the typical internet marketing, like, 4 hours left, 2 hours left. Like it doesn't have to be like that. It's more like this stance. And one of my mentors taught me about this, like your energetic stance, right? It's kind of like, here's the thing I have. It's pretty cool. Do you want it? If not, that's cool. If you want it, great, right? Instead of this like, gotta make this money now, gotta push this thing in your face now. But let's be honest, psychologically, sometimes we need something to get us off the fence. So, for example, the offer I have out there right now, I'm telling people the doors close on Sunday, but I'm not making this huge countdown about it. I'm just reminding them the doors are closing soon. you know? So yeah, so it's really up to you. I say to my clients, if you want to put that urgency in, you can, but it doesn't have to be like, we have to do a 5-day challenge, 6 webinars, and then, cart close, and then this big countdown to the cart close.
Got it.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. So you've been growing your income by 375% over the past 2 years. What do you attribute your success to?
Yeah, so there's a few things, but if I had to pinpoint, I would say that one is when you're looking to scale, and I saw a friend had posted this on our Facebook today, and I was like, yes, that's true. When you're looking to scale, you actually need less, not more. So
Mhm.
what I did was strip down a lot of my offers. I used to have so many offers. And the reason why is because, well, the money has to come from somewhere. Got to launch this month. Got to launch this month. It's the first of the month. What am I going to do to bring money in? And so what I did was I stripped down a lot of my offers and really just decided to focus on 1 or 2 front end offers and then my one ongoing program.
Mhm.
And that allowed me like a lot more bandwidth. And it also allowed me to go deeper with my clients because I wasn't so rushing around with all these different kinds of offers that I was kind of, to be honest, doing a little bit half-assed because
Mm.
there's just there's so much to do with any one launch of an offer. So stripping down, putting more focus on getting deeper results. Another thing I would say is the delivery piece, like getting really, really clear around what I wanted my clients to get out of it, and also putting things in place so that they would know that the next step is the ongoing offer. So less is more, stripping down. Another thing I would say that is huge, and this is so ironic because I've taught marketing for 12 years, and I always used to say, like, the first step is getting clear on your ideal client and your message. And it's so funny because I kind of almost glossed over it. I'm like, that's the first step, but like do a quick exercise around it and like let's move on and talk about webinars and Facebook ads and tactics. And what I've realized over the years is actually that part is the most important part. And we
Mhm.
should be spending the most time going deep on that part, which is claiming your who and putting a stake in the ground and not being afraid to leave people behind, because for a long time I
Hmm.
was afraid to leave certain people behind. Um,
Yep.
and then the messaging as well, like really listening to what they're saying. And also, another thing my mentor talks about is listen to what they're not saying by what they're saying.
Hmm.
So it's like paying more attention to what people are saying and what might be underneath what they're saying. So almost just getting really curious about the psychology behind it. I think that those two things are huge.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier to sell, and you don't have to have such crazy launches because it sounds kind of like cliche, but your offers start to sell themselves without
Hmm.
so much push effort, which I was over. After a while, I was like, I'm over it.
Totally. What's one of the biggest either mistakes or lessons learned that you've had over the past 12 years of doing this?
Yeah, so I would say one of the biggest ones is not asking for the money, which is, so funny because it's like, well, that's pretty basic, but I still remember, and I was looking at your questions before we got on here, and I thought, oh, what's like a quick story? So my second year in business, I'll never forget. I remember where I was sitting. I remember what I was doing, and I was like, how can I make more money? And, my mind started wandering and I started to realize, like, oh, I just have to ask for the money more, and back in the day, that was, I have to make more offers. And like these
Hmm.
days, I'm like, not about having a million offers, but it's
Hmm.
about asking for the money, which goes back to what we talked about around having more calls to action in more messages more frequently.
Hmm.
And that really is one of the biggest mistakes people make is they don't ask for that money. And a lot of times there is mindset stuff behind that. Not always, but sometimes it's like, I'm afraid to ask for the
Yeah,
money, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And you have to really open your eyes and realize, like, that's a disservice to your potential clients when you're not asking them to step forward because they need you and they need what you have.
Yep,
Yeah.
totally.
So that was
What's
big.
one of the, that's a big one for sure. What's one of the best books you've read?
So I would say for business books, Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. I don't know if you're familiar with
Yep,
that.
I've read it.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that book, I read it probably 5 years ago. It changed my life. And I always tell my clients the biggest reason why it changed my life is because I used to have money come in and not know where it went, which sounds so silly. But it was like,
Yeah.
he teaches you how to really make these buckets so that things get taken care of and you're not scrambling, like, for example, at tax time. Where's the tax money going to come from? He just has such a beautiful way of getting you to get a handle on your money. And that has changed everything. I could go on, but like I paid off all my student loans because of his advice. I was able to buy a car in all cash because of his advice. Like, he's brilliant. Just read the book, people, really.
Profit First. Definitely check it out. That's a really good one. What does it mean to make an impact?
So it's always been about, for me, particularly, I work with women and men, but primarily women. And it's always been important to me in my business to be able to create like a ripple effect, because you don't just work with one client, you work with a client and then you help them do whatever the thing is they want to do. And that also helps their family, that helps their community, that helps the world. And these days, a lot of people talk about inclusivity and, social justice and a lot of the stuff that's going on in the current climate. And I've always felt that like anyone, any woman, of any class, ability, sex, race, whatever, can use entrepreneurship to launch herself in her life and create a better future, not only for her, but for the people around her. So when you talk about making an impact, that's what I think about, is that ripple effect out from that one woman entrepreneur to the rest of the world, which is super powerful.
It's wild to think like you could have touched someone's life, that's listening to this episode, that shared something they learned with someone else. And then like you don't even know who that person is, but you've like indirectly touched their life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I always remind my clients, if they're having a bad day, we all have bad days, like think about that. Like people are being inspired by you and you don't even realize that. Like they're watching, they see it, even if they don't tell you. And that's magical. It's amazing.
Yep. If you're inspired by either me or Christine right now, tell us, because a lot of times like everyone needs to hear that they're making a difference. And a lot of times when you're doing this, when you have an online business, a lot of times you're doing the work and you're putting content out there. And if you're not getting like someone's not saying, hey, like this impacted me in this way, a lot of times it can feel like you're talking to a wall, And so give what you want to receive. If you like tell someone, hey, you inspired me, this impacted me. And I think that makes a big difference too.
Thank you for saying that. Definitely share if it's impacted you. Mm-hmm.
Totally. Where can we connect with you?
Yeah, so my website is shesgotclients.com. And if you wanted to check out a little bit more around the offer stuff that I was talking about, creating really irresistible offers that sell themselves, we do have a free guide that we offer at shesgotclients.com/offer playbook. And also I'm on Instagram at Christine G and on Facebook at Christine Gallagher. So I'd love to connect with everybody.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Christine, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.